If you are like me, you might have read the most inspiring books, but after a while you realize it is hard to live by the newly found insights. This is why Mariana de la Vega founded the Consciousness Lab, a group of like-minded people that discuss these insights between each other. Not surprising, one of the first topics they explored was oneness. Cause no matter how much we might agree on the idea of oneness, the mind still tends to separate things into categories. And this fragmentation is the cause of a lot of suffering. Can consciousness overcome this separation? My name is Thorsten Lüdecke, and this is the Wisdom Qigong podcast.
Hi, everybody. It's great to be here. And Students Hub is also very close to my heart. I've used a lot of resources and I've learned a lot with the Ask a Master sessions. And over the years, as a Qigong instructor, and even before that, as a meditation practitioner, I've read a lot of books about, this sacred ancient books that talk about what human beings really are. And I really liked all those kinds of books, but then it was hard to live by them and sometimes really understand like the Heart Sutra or the Tao Te Ching, etc. So after my Qigong practice, I discovered that you can experience what those texts say through the practice and bring that to your daily life, actually. So I developed this workshop, this kind of book club where we meet and we read some passages of these books and then bring them to our Qigong practice and to everyday questions like, personal relationships, or even the relationship with your body. And the most important thing we've discovered with this exercise is that all these books talk about one truth. And that simple truth is that the mind tends to separate things. That's what mind does. It separates things into categories, into concepts. Those concepts are not really what it is, what we call reality. Reality is just one thing. And once you start to experience how your mind tends to fragment everything, and that fragmentation, that separation, that, cutting into pieces, you start experiencing what Buddhism would call suffering. Because then you feel you have to protect yourself, you have to defend yourself, you have to strive to be something that you're not. But when you really feel like the oneness, like the entirety of everything, and how everything is not only connected, but it's the same thing. Everything is made of the same thing, which is, we would say qi, but qi as in information level. And then you feel relaxed because everything is developing by itself.
Now,
So
I'm
it's
glad. I'm
Yeah.
glad you bring up this as a first thing that you've obviously discussed in your consciousness lab, or in your book club, as you may call it, because the idea of oneness is something all of us have read about, and most people would just nod their heads and say, "Yeah, oneness. There's oneness." But the point is, to most of us, it doesn't mean anything in everyday life. We don't go about our life as if there is oneness. We still go about our life as if there is separation. So I suppose that discussing this and going deeper with your friends in the club actually makes a big difference, because it is only by constantly diving deep into this idea of oneness that you actually start to incorporate it in who you are, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the way we found is most helpful is to just identify what your mind is doing when it is conceptualizing, fragmenting, just realizing that, just be conscious, be aware of what mind is doing. Because if you try to, think about oneness all the time, this is oneness, it's just another thought. And actually, that's what mind does. It's thinking all the time, but there's an awareness of those thoughts. And that's the experience of awareness. That's the experience of oneness. Once you realize that thoughts and feelings, sensations, perceptions, even during practice, you're practicing Punchi Fan, you're pulling, pushing, etc. And all these thoughts or all these feelings come about. And you just notice. You just notice what's happening before your awareness. And then you realize that those thoughts are only in your mind. That things are not separated, like things come and go, thoughts come and go. And that's just like a dance of the universe. Everything is coming and going. And the experience in the practice, in the methods, that's like a big step. And then it's easily transferred to everyday life because you're washing the dishes, you're talking to someone, thoughts keep coming and going. And you're just that space of awareness that just observes, notices all these things. And as Teacher Pang says, then you start shifting your attention during the practice. It's like first you focus on the movements of the practice, and then you focus on qi and the sensation of qi and the feeling of qi. And then you start focusing on Shen and, the what is noticing qi, what is noticing the sensations. And
you might have to explain the word Shen to our audience because it's not
okay.
as well known than the other words you've used.
Okay, so the whole entirety theory, Hun Yuan entirety theory, in which Jin and Qigong is based, is that everything in the universe is made up of just one thing, and this one thing is Qi, which is roughly translated to energy, but energy at the information level, like the thing that exists before everything else. And this qi can be manifested in material things or in electrical energy, etc., etc. It can be manifested or expressed in many ways. And also in human beings. Human beings have like a physical expression of qi, and we have energy expression of qi, and we have information expression of qi. And what notices and what moves this energy in human beings is the conscious mind, which we could call Shen. Shen, at the end of the day, is like the force or the energy of the most pure part of our minds, which in theory it's called Yi Yuan Ti, which is a very complicated concept or word. Teacher Shen always emphasizes you cannot explain Yi Yuan Ti, you just have to experience it. But Shen would be like when you're very attentive, but with no judgment. It's just the movement of your attention with no intention, with no judgment. So it's like your presence. So if you think of your right hand, for example, that's a thought. That's another part of your mind with you just think of a hand and it's a concept. And it brings about like an image and maybe some experience of hand. But if you bring your presence, your whole mind, your whole presence to the hand, to the right hand, that would be Shen.
My name is Leila Cupido, and I'm the project manager of the Students Hub. Our team is constantly adding events, teachers, videos, and other resources to take your practice to the next level, improving the quality of your life and the life of the people around you. We do this work for you, so please use it. Hunyuan Ling Tong.
Now, would you say that there is my Chen and your Chen, or is that just one Chen that is, perceiving all of that?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. I mean, in this world in which we see everything separated because we're not trained, and the mind has been learning a lot of reference frameworks which distorts like this experience of separation, because a baby has no separation in its mind, in her mind. But when you start practicing and you start experiencing and you start learning these things, yeah, you feel like it's your Shen, it's your attention. And the first step when you start practicing and learning Qin and Qigong is that you have to bring your attention into the body, into yourself. That's the first step. And I think it's a big, big step, because then your attention is not focusing on, so many things. It starts focusing on one thing. But when you practice a little bit more, then you realize this characteristic. We can call it like the essence of you. It's the same essence in everybody else. And that's another step, because we tend to see people, we tend to see each person as an individual with individual characteristics. But those characteristics are just like their reference frameworks. But in essence, they're moving their attention as everybody else is doing. They're just moving and noticing those thoughts and acting upon those thoughts. And everybody has different thoughts, or some different thoughts, because we have different reference frameworks and belief systems that we're acquiring throughout our lives. But the movement of the mind is the same in everybody. So you start noticing less and less differences between people and between things also. So, and then you start realizing this thing is moving along the universe. It's
Right.
like underlying everything.
Right. It reminds me a little bit, if you think of colors, for example, the color red is the color red. There's no such thing as my color red. And if my red is gone, there is no red. It's just red. It's there. Or in intelligence, you can argue that there's no such thing as my intelligence, your intelligence. I know we call it that way, but really there's just intelligence out there. And we are applying this concept of intelligence, but it's just one thing. It's just intelligence, right? And I like the example of colors because it's so obvious. If this painting here behind me, there are some red dots in it. If that falls victim to a fire, it doesn't mean red is gone. No, red is still there, right? Not this individual point on the beautiful painting, but red still exists, and it always did exist before that painting. So for me, things like share, that's how I see it, at least. So that's how I'm trying to understand these things. It's not really my Shen or your Shen. It is really Shen, and I'm kind of tapping into it or being it when the consciousness allows me to connect with it. So yeah, I'm stumbling a little bit because words are so difficult, because words are part of the world of concepts rather than the world of reality. But I hope that kind of makes sense to you what I'm saying here.
Yeah, totally. And color red is the same. It's just color red.
Right.
But what we tend to believe is that our experience of red makes us what we are. And it's not my experience of red, because red is the same for everybody. But I tend to believe that my experience of red is the only experience of red there is, and that everybody is experiencing red the same way. But actually, all my beliefs, my all the things I've learned through the conceptualizing mind tend to make me experience red in a certain way. And when I say red and you say red, we think we're experiencing the same way, because we're not aware that we're experiencing it through our fragmented mind.
Right.
But once you realize there's only red, and red is not good, red is not bad, red is not correct or incorrect. That's just how my mind tries to judge everything. Red is just red. The world is just the world, and the universe is, and it's just what is.
Right.
And that's what the practice gives you. And it has been a wonderful experience to, as a group, realize what we are really practicing when we're practicing Qigong. Because so many people find Qigong when they're having like a health issue, a health crisis. And they think Qin and Qigong is just for, physical well-being. And we're doing so much more when we're practicing.
And it's interesting because before we started the recording, we spoke that you're actually a lecturer at a university, and you're giving courses there together with Master Chen and a third person. I don't know who the third person is, but you're this is part of your course there, isn't it?
Yeah, this is part of our course.
And if you find it difficult for many Qin and Qigong practitioners because they focus on healing only, to get this message across, I can imagine to get some unsuspecting people into your course who've never heard of Qin and Qigong, and then trying them to grasp that concept must be quite a challenge, right?
Yeah, it is. It is being a challenge, but surprisingly, sometimes it's more difficult to get people to experience this when they've been practicing Qin and Qigong for a long time. Thinking about Qin and Qigong is just one thing. And these people, we have like about 25 students, and some of them are Qin and Qigong practitioners for a long time. They've been to China, they've been with a lot of instructors, and some of them are quite new in all these things. And we even have a couple of students that they didn't know what they were enrolling into. So, so they're being like surprising, finding it like really interesting. And sometimes it's easier to explain it like from scratch, like from the very start, and they don't have like a concept of Qin and Qigong, and it's easier sometimes. But well, we have like this, we're very fortunate to have teacher Shen living in Mexico now for some time, and he's organizing these kind of classes. And the psychology department in this university was really interested when we arranged for him to have a master class. So one of the psychology professors is involved. She's involved in the class. So she will be explaining many things about how the mind works and emotions, especially because the whole class is focused on emotions and how Chin and Chikun and the inner perceptions and bringing your Shen to notice emotions is a very deep and profound healing, because you're doing both. You're doing two things. First of all, you're noticing what's happening in your body. So you're bringing your mind back. And in that way, you're bringing chi back to your body. And that's the first part. And you're healing emotions because you're letting them be. And you're realizing the emotions are just chi moving in your body. And when you let them be, and when you notice them with your Shen, the Shen has a very fine, very subtle chi that just penetrates the emotions, which have like rougher kind of chi. They feel heavy in the body. So you just go through the emotions and they disperse, they heal. And the second part is that you start noticing, well, if I can notice, if I can perceive, sense the emotion, what is perceiving the emotion? So this question, it's one of the most important questions in many spiritual and consciousness traditions. Who is experiencing, or what is experiencing? And once you realize, okay, I can experience, I can sense, I can perceive, I can observe emotions, I can sense and perceive the story behind the emotion, like the trauma story, and what is sensing, what is perceiving. And suddenly the attention shifts to that thing. We're just gonna say thing, but this thing that is sensing and perceiving, which is consciousness. And then the attention and the chi nurture that consciousness. So yeah, it's being we just started. We're in our 4th class this week, and already the group is experiencing some truths, some when you have like these little insights, these little enlightenment moments where you that's it. And yeah, it's been really interesting.
Now, perception for me, one of the incredible benefits of perception is that as long as I focus on perceiving, I switch off my thoughts, because I'm not there interpreting, analyzing, I'm just perceiving. And the thoughts are, I know we put a lot of value on our thoughts. We think it's so important because that's what I'm thinking. And, but I think we have a huge ego about how important our thoughts are. But really, everything the thoughts are is just a reproduction from what we have learned in the past. Otherwise, we wouldn't have these thoughts. Thoughts are not very creative. Thoughts is just, my old patterns, my old thinking over and over and over again. That's why I tend to have the same thoughts all over the time. And they're very different from your thoughts because you've got a different history. But all we are doing is we are repeating our history here. While when we focus on perception, then, something new can open up. And if we don't allow our thoughts to interfere, then, I hope our listeners are familiar with the concept of the Yan Qi. Then we can tap into the Yan Qi and basically connect with all the wisdom that is there. And suddenly, we there's insights that weren't there before if we just kept it chattering because our thoughts are always so busy. I think that's one of the big benefits if you just allow yourself to perceive. Does that make sense in what you are teaching? Or is it something different that I'm saying here?
No, it totally makes sense. That's exactly what we're doing. Because first of all, when you perceive, when you sense, when you just notice, that brings you to the present moment, to the experience. And from that point, from that space of just noticing, suddenly the story that's going on in your mind, all these past experiences which are just projecting into the future, and you're projecting, will this repeat? I'm afraid this will repeat in the future, or I just want to have more of these pleasurable experiences in the future. What should I do? All those stories just stops for a moment, and you realize that's the reality. So perceiving, as you say, is a big step in consciousness practice, because that's what brings you to what you really are, and to the creative part of consciousness, of the mind. Creative in the sense of connecting with harmony, with what is already there, with perfection. I remember an interview they did to one Qigong Chinese master, and he said that's what Haola means. Haola means maybe my mind is not perceiving what universe is already, what the universe is. It's just harmony, it's just perfection. Haola is I realize my mind is not there, but perfection is underlying everything there is. And Haola also means I'm going to get there. I'm going to get to that part of my mind that is always connected with perfection, with harmony. Everything is already there. So yeah, that's what we're doing with our classes.
Great work, Mariana.
Yeah. We're really excited.
I can imagine. I wanted to add a thought because earlier on you spoke about how when you allow your feelings, to just be, and you perceive the feelings, how they kind of dissolve, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that something you said?
Yeah.
They lose the edge. They're not so big anymore. They kind of, they come and then they go because you're just perceiving them. And I found that this is also true for basically anything in your life. So often when we think we have a problem or something is going not so well, we immediately the mind kicks in and we start to think about it and try to find solutions, etc., etc. While if we just stay with whatever is, be with it, be aware and perceive what's going on without the goal of solving it, without a direction, without an intention here or a purpose to do that. Just be there, observe it. It tends to basically, disappear like a fog disappears when the sun comes out. I think that's a beauty, because I think that's an analogy to life's problems compared to what you just described when it comes to feelings. I mean, a lot of us have heard that if you're allowed to live your feelings and to express it, that it will disappear. A lot of people are kind of familiar with the concept, but I think it's true for many other areas of our lives as well. And so I think this is something that people will also experience if they stay in this state of perceiving and observing.
Yeah, and I think the 8 phrases of when you organize the Chi field take you to that state if you really go into the wisdom of the information in those phrases. I think the phrase that mostly describes this state of only perceiving and letting things just go by is when you say respectful on the outside, and serene or quiet in the inside, because you just respect everything. You respect your feelings, you respect your thoughts, you respect your sensations, even if it's pain, you just respect that. But the mind, the heart remains serene. And that's one of the insights we had in the consciousness lab when we read the Taoist texts. And serenity is one of the key concepts in Taoism, which is, the part of you, the essence of you is untouchable. I mean, it is always quiet, always calm, always in peace. You don't have to go out to find peace. You don't have to search to get to the state of peace, because that's what you are. That's serenity. When you respect everything, everything is going on by itself. It's happening by itself. And then you realize you're just observing, noticing, perceiving from that state of serenity, which is what you are. You don't have to go look for it. You don't have to strive to be anything and, practice a lot of the methods. I mean, in the sense of, I'm going to be there. What Qigong practice gives you is a clear mind to realize what you already are.
I think that's a beautiful way to put it, because that is who we are. It's only that we have put so much clutter on top of it that we kind of forgot. And I don't know, it was one of the podcasts I just recorded the other day. Somebody said, Qin and Qigong is not about what you learn, it's about what you unlearn. I think it was John. I'm not sure. I'm not going to say who it was because I forgot. So whoever deserves the credits, they go to that beautiful teacher. But it's about the unlearning. And when you unlearn all these things, then you come back to who you are, which is the serenity that you describe here. Huh?
Yeah. When one of my favorite parts of being a Qigong instructor is introducing new people to this practice. And actually, this weekend, I'm teaching a level 1 class. That's one of my favorite parts. And I always define Qin and Qigong as the relaxation, the science of relaxation. But we tend to think about relaxation as, get to a good environment that really relaxes you, like go to nature or go to a spa, take a massage, or go have dinner with your friends and just relax, watch a movie and relax. Like if relaxation depended on the environment and in external things. And then you start learning that relaxation is a state of mind, and that once the mind brings the attention into the body responds with relaxation, and the body relaxes. You just have to pay attention to the inside of your head, and you feel your head relaxing. And then you start realizing that what you have to relax are the thoughts about the world. You're not going to change your thoughts like with, just doing things quickly. You're not going to change your thoughts. You're just going to put your thoughts in the place where they belong, which is things that appear in the space of awareness. And then you start relaxing and giving the thoughts not that much importance. As you said, we tend to live by our thoughts, believing that our thoughts are the most important thing. And you just have to think right. No, you cannot think right, because your thoughts are just the story of your life repeating itself. You cannot change your story. You cannot change what happened, but you can change the way you look at the thoughts and the story. So that's why I find it helpful to explain Qin and Qigong as the science of relaxation, because you're relaxing your existence. You're relaxing what you think you are and just letting it go.
I think I'm learning a lot today here from you. It's a very, very interesting. Just the way you just described the thoughts, as the thoughts are just the story of your life. So because so many of us focus on, you need to think positive, you need to think different, etc., etc. And we know how tough that is, because basically it means disciplining yourself all day long, trying to think the right things, right? While you are saying, and I'm putting some words into your mouth now, it's a bit like, don't take your thoughts so serious. They're just the story of your life repeating itself. If you know that, you can look at them lovingly and say, I know you, because I know my life, I know what I'm thinking here, but it's not that important. And then they kind of become less loud, less noisy, and they're just somewhere, just like everything else is just somewhere, and you can focus on this on the essence of who you really are, and that is obviously relaxation. And the only thing that I'm not so happy with is if you call it the science of relaxation, because it implies there's a technique, I need to learn something, while it might actually be the other way around. There's nothing to learn. And I don't need a technique. I don't need first do this, then do that, just as you explained. So I'm not so happy with that word, but I'll leave it there, because it makes total sense to you, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate to it. And we also need to find things that, in particular, when we have new people joining our courses, to give them something they can relate to. So they say, oh yeah, that sounds great. That's something I want. So let me learn more about it. Right?
Yeah, because at first, I like this Buddhist saying that Buddhist practice, or Buddhism in general, is just like the vehicle through which you cross like a river. But once you get to the other side, you have to get rid of your canoe or the vehicle that took you there. So when I say the science of relaxation, I mean it has some rules, it has some laws, because it works that way. It's describing the way it works, the way it is. But once you understand it, once you experience it, you have to let it go. You have to stop thinking about practicing and just be the practice. You're not practicing for 30, 40 minutes. You're being the practice. So sometimes when we learn Qin and Qigong, we focus on organizing our chi field and creating a chi field with an intention. And it's sometimes hard to explain to students, to practitioners, that intention, it's going to be in the chi field, not only the 30 minutes that you practice. It's going to be in your chi field the whole day. You have to be that intention. But sometimes the intention is confused with a wish. Right. I wish I was healthy. I wish. And when you wish, it feels like in a distance. It feels like unattainable sometimes.
Yes.
But when you really understand, you have to live your intention and be your intention while you're practicing, while you're eating, while you're working, talking, walking, whatever. That really changes the Qigong practice, because that's what methods are giving you, the clarity to be what you intended when you organize the Qi field.
The intention is what gives you direction throughout the day and beyond. So it gives you direction. While if you're talking about the wishes, it's more like, I wish something would happen to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
While here it's a direction that where you align your actions and your ways of being, and this is why the intention manifests. So it is you continue with this intention throughout your day and the week and all of your life, possibly. No?
Yeah.
I don't want to let you go, Mariana, before I have asked you a question that was on my mind right from the beginning. Like this consciousness lab, is it a fixed group of people that come together, or is it open that people come and go, and new people can join, or how do you do that? And don't feel bad if it's a closed group because you guys know each other for such a long time. But just people will probably want to know how this works.
Well, we meet twice a month for 2 hours. We started in November, and it obviously has taken like this course of its own. So we've been discussing different books, different passages, different things, practicing, because we start off by commenting and reflecting on the passages of the text we just read, and then we practice. And then we do some practice. We meditate or we practice three centers merge with the intention of what we just read. And but obviously, some of the texts have brought us to other texts,
Right.
and so it's not a closed group. What some people are doing, they're just joining, and if they have any questions, we have we have these open sessions where people can ask questions about what has been going on in the lab, and they can get the recordings of previous sessions so they can catch up. But it's been developing quite beautifully, so I'm thinking about opening a new group with starting from just the beginning once again, maybe this September. But people can join at any time. The passages or the books or the texts we're reading, some of them we discussed them in just one session, and some of them we discussed in 5 sessions. So it's really organic. It's really, moving on by itself, just as the group decides.
And the courses you are giving, I mean, your English is so incredible. Nobody will believe that your mother tongue is actually Spanish. But are the courses, like if you say make level 1, the lift you up, etc., is it in Spanish or is it in English, the courses that you give?
So far in Spanish, I've been trying to. I've also been focusing in methods for the spine and the nervous system, and we have a Parkinson's recovery group, and recently one man from the US is joining. So yeah, I mean, this is also one thing I've been trying to get to English speaking practitioners, but I haven't had the time to
to focus on that, right?
Focus on that.
Yes.
But mostly in Spanish. But I'd be happy to have people, English speakers, join any of the classes and have a special, consciousness lab in English. That would be beautiful.
I remember when we first met, you were working on your website. Is it actually online?
Yeah. It is.
Perfect.
It is.
So that's what we're going to do. We're going to put your website into the show notes, and then people can explore and see what you're doing and get to know you a little better. And then they obviously can get in touch if they feel like they would like to work with you. All right?
Okay. Perfect. Thank you so much.
Wonderful, Mariana. It was great to talk to you, in particular because, as you've done translation work with me, I had no idea that you go so deep with all your practice and how deep you go into studying all these theories and these ideas. So I'm sure there is room for another conversation soon, and I would look very much forward to that.
I would love to. Thank you so much. And I really appreciate your work. You're doing so much for Qin and Qigong practice all over the world. Thank you so much. Nice to see you.
We trust you enjoyed this conversation, and we invite you to subscribe to our podcast so we can stay in touch and notify you of future episodes. We will end today's episode with the 8 verses meditation performed by Jinin Qigong teacher Katrin Hendricks. Enjoy.
Ding Tian Li Xing Song Yi Chong Wai Jin Ne Jin Xing Chong Ma Gong Yin Yang Bu Qi Shan Zhou Zai Gong Shan Yi Zao Ti Zhou Shan Rong Rong Zhou Shan Rong Rong Zhou Shan Rong Rong.
To get your free ebook on the 8 verses meditation, please check the show notes below.